Have you ever been told to sit deep? Sit deep in the saddle to be more secure or to be able to ride out something that your horse is doing. This is one of those terms in riding that is used so often, but is hardly ever actually defined or understood by riders. I'm Callie King, and today I'm here with three friends. I'm here with Happy Horse, with Elmer, and with Wendy Murdoch. Wendy Murdoch is one of our instructors here at Horse Class. She teaches several online courses here, as well as is an international clinician, a Feldenkrais practitioner, and Wendy's an anatomy and a biomechanics expert, but what Wendy does goes far beyond just the body. But today she's going to work here with the two skeletons to help give some more clarity to this idea of sit deep.
So thanks, Callie, for introducing me. I'm here with Elmer, my human skeleton, who's about 5'4". That's about as tall as I am. And my mom named this Halloween skeleton Happy Horse. So he is a Halloween prop, so he's not perfect in terms of his anatomy, but he's a really great demonstration for what we're going to look at today. Because I think when you start to understand the skeleton and what's happening with the skeleton, it gives you a better sense and understanding of what you need to do with your body. I'm going to just move back here so that I'm out of the way, and Callie's going to hold Elmer for me. And I'm going to see if I can move his arms out of the way a little bit so we don't have too much to pay attention to. What I want you to look at is right here. This is the wings of your pelvis. We often call this our hips because it's where our belt sits. But our hip is actually this joint, this hip joint, which is a ball and socket joint. And so when we're thinking about sitting deep, what's really important is to understand that this is the largest joint in our body, and it has just a tremendous range. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this leg, and I want you to see just how much movement, right, we have in that ball and socket joint. This joint is really critical when you want to sit deep. If this joint is restricted in any way, it's going to make it harder to sit deep, because in order to sit deep, we have to be able to let our pelvis come down into the saddle. Now, Elmer here doesn't have any muscle and he doesn't have any fat, so that's really easy. And if I take his leg out of the way, what I want you to see is, here's your sit bone, okay? And your sit bone is actually kind of a rocker shaped, and it has a wider part, and then it gets thinner and narrower as we come to the pubic bone. It is not comfortable to bang the pubic bone against the saddle. So sometimes people will get into a position where they tilt the pelvis forward, and then they might hit here, and then they try to sit up because they've come forward. And so Callie, now just make him sit up with the pelvis in this position. And she has to really heave the upper body back, but the weight of the pelvis coming forward puts everything forward. So if I pull on the reins at this point, there's nothing that's going to stop him, and he's going to get pulled forward by the horse, or if the horse stops short, or a dog runs out, this is not a very secure position, okay? Some people think that sitting deep means sitting way back. And now what you have to realize with Elmer is his spine cannot change shape the way yours can. So that one is a little difficult to illustrate. But basically, if we take the top of the pelvis back and then round him forward, okay, and that he can't go very far, but you can imagine the top slumping. Now, if the horse accelerates, you're already going back, and and you can fall back. So what I like to do is help riders understand that the mobility in this hip joint is actually the key to sitting deep. This is the largest joint in your body, and excuse me, it's a ball joint. And so when we find a secure position, we've got the weight coming down into the seat bones, into the widest part of the seat bones, because that's the weight-bearing part. And then the hip joint needs to have mobility. But we want to be careful not to just let the leg move out like this, because now all the weight's on the horse's back. And you can feel if you go to try and lift him, it's going to be really hard. So we might be heavy, but not necessarily deep, because as we turn the knee out, we contract the buttock muscles, And the buttock muscles, when they're contracted, act a bit like a basketball. So if you put too much air in that basketball, it really bounces. And so if you put too much contraction into your buttocks, it contracts, it gets harder, and it bounces us out of the saddle. So we need the buttock muscles to be softer, the seat bone to be aimed straight down so we're on the widest part, and then the hip joint free so it can move, but with the thigh resting on the saddle so that we take some weight onto the thigh and distribute our weight around the horse. So the key, Callie, really is getting this pelvis in the middle position with the seat bone straight down, something that he has trouble doing because of his back. It's positioned for standing and not sitting, okay? But the seat bone straight down, mobility in the hip joint, and the softer this hip joint gets, the more we're gonna stay with the saddle. So the next time you think about, well, I wanna sit deep, just notice whether or not you have relaxation in your hips, your pelvis is level, your back's flat, and then when the horse pulls, if he pulls, what'll happen is, and I'll just give Elmer a little pull here to illustrate, but I'm gonna stabilize his pelvis. He'll just pull you into the saddle. And you can see, if I stabilize that pelvis, I move everything forward. But if I stick those seat bones out behind, it's gonna tip. And if it goes too far back, the chances of going back or your leg shooting forward and kind of pivoting over your leg, all of those things can happen. So just always keep in mind the line of gravity and relaxation in through the seat so that you stay with the saddle and with your horse.
If you're interested in learning more from Wendy and with the skeletons about riding position, riding movement, then scroll down to learn more about the courses that Wendy instructs here at Horse Class.